All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. And I'm sure that anybody who has gone through YouTube and articles and Instagram and everything like that has heard the question, what is the best firearm for home use? And it not for concealed, not your carry, right? But for the beginner shooter who just wants to protect their home, the question is, what should I get? And the truth is that here's the answer, right? You have so many choices, right? You've got 9 millimeter, you've got rifles, you've got shotguns, you've got, should I use a 45 ACP? Should I use a 9 millimeter? Right? And the truth of the matter is, right, it's what you're comfortable with and what you train with and how often do you train. That's usually that's the question, really. Right now, is one gun going to fit all? No, it's not. Let's just say you're somebody who wants a gun to protect themselves. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and use a scenario. If you're an older person, right? Let's say and I'm going to use my mom. My mom is 86 years old. Right? And let's say hypothetically, she's in a well protected area, by the way. But let's just use that age group. Let's use the age group. Let's say from 75 to 85, who wants to protect their home. They might not be in such a great area, and they get it taken advantage of sometime by society, right? But they want someone to protect themselves. Now, logically, right? For me, you're not gonna put a 9 millimeter gun or a 45 ACP in their hands, right? And we talk about stopping power, and you want something with stopping power. Well, that'll stop them, yeah, But you know what else will stop them too, right? Is a 22, because really the main thing is getting your shots on target, right? And let's face it, when you're in the house, somebody breaks in, your threat level is going to be high, right? Your adrenaline's going to be high. But if they're 10 feet away and you just point the gun at them, you're going to hit them, right? So for older people, right, the gun is not going to be the same as it would be for me or for somebody younger. Why? Because of the recoil, right? Especially if they don't train on it that often. You take a 22, right, and there's no recoil in it. They could train. They could train at home on a dry fire system, right, and get set up on a dry fire system or dry fire and teach them how to dry fire. There's no recoil in it, which is basically the same thing. If all this makes sense, right? You don't want something that's going to, right, cause them anticipation when they shoot, and they're going to close their eyes because they're going to hear a loud boom and a recoil, right? But you want to put something in their hands that they can handle, that's going to be really no recoil or little recoil, right? That they can shoot to stop the threat. You can define stop the threat any freaking way you want, right? Will a 22 stop a threat? Yeah, it'll stop a threat, especially if you have a home defense round, right? If you have home defense rounds like a hollow point or something like that, yeah, it's going to stop them, but you might have to shoot them a couple times. Just being honest, right? And if you are in a panic situation and you are older, right, you have every right to stop that threat any way you can. And really, right, this is why we train center mass, right? Because it is the biggest area. It is the biggest area to shoot at when you're in trouble, right? Again, especially if you haven't trained that much or you're an elderly person, you need to get off. Um, yeah, me, I use, I use a 9 millimeter. I like 9 millimeter for my home defense, right? I have several that I keep ready. And but then again, I also have an AR-15 that I use too, right? Now, I would never recommend an AR-15 to somebody who that is that is inexperienced. You know, people say right off the right in the fly, right? Just what do I use? Well, use a shotgun. You use a rifle. AR-15 is the best. It's the most popular rifle in the country. Well, yeah, that's true, right? But when you're trying to stop a threat in your house, right, and you have to use something, and you're that elderly person, right? Hey, you're gonna use a 22. That's my recommendation for that, right? It's easy. There's no recoil to it. It's got stopping power. But remember one thing that I said, this is the most important thing about that stopping power, right? Is getting your rounds on target. That's the most important thing. It doesn't freaking make any difference whether it's a 45 ACP or it's a 9mm or if it's a 22, right? Or if it's a fucking shotgun or an AR-15. You got to get that round on target, right? So anyway, that's kind of like my rant. That's kind of like what I think of, in terms of, when people ask me what should I use. Hey, you know what? Does the gun fit you? Are you comfortable with it? Right? Let's go out and train with it a couple times. That way, it can at least get, you know, you know, get you some training underneath it. Right? Does that mean you need to come out here like I do, freaking twice a week and shoot live rounds? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means you're in there to protect your home. Right? So basically, in conclusion, right? If you're an older person, right, and you're a little, you're not that strong, and you want something that's going to stop somebody, you want something that's to protect yourself. Hey, I recommend a 22, right? Some people might not agree with it, right? Because it does have stopping power, especially if you get those rounds on target. All right. If you have anything to add to this, do me a favor, hit me up down in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback on this.